AITA for canceling my proposal after a pie recipe exposed my cheating girlfriend? My name is Jack. I'm 28, and until a few months ago, I thought my life was boring in the safest possible way. I worked nights as a shift supervisor at a distribution center in Columbus, Ohio, rented a 2-bedroom townhouse with my girlfriend Paige, and spent most mornings drinking gas station coffee on the back steps while our neighbor's dog barked at absolutely nothing. Paige and I had been together almost 4 years, long enough that people stopped asking if we were serious and started asking when I was buying a ring. I used to laugh it off, mostly because I already had one hidden in a toolbox in the garage. We weren't some perfect couple people would post about, but I thought we were solid. We split rent, alternated grocery runs at Kroger, argued mildly about which streaming service to cancel, and had a shared household account for bills and whatever random Target stuff ended up being for the house. Our townhouse was narrow and a little drafty, with assigned parking, thin walls, a tiny back patio, and a garage full of plastic storage bins, tools, Christmas decorations, and projects I kept swearing I'd finish on my next weekend off. Paige worked in marketing for a regional appliance company. That meant client lunches, brand events, late meetings, and calendar invites that changed at the last minute. I worked nights, so a lot of our relationship happened in passing. She'd be brushing her teeth while I was tying my boots. I'd be falling asleep while she was making coffee. It wasn't ideal, but I told myself that's what adult life was. Two tired people trying to love each other between schedules. After my mom passed 2 years earlier, Paige became one of the few people who knew how to talk to me without turning every conversation into a sympathy card. She didn't push. She didn't make me explain myself. She'd just sit beside me on the couch with her feet tucked under her and let the TV run while I stared at nothing. One night, a few months after the funeral, I mentioned my mom's peanut butter chess pie. It was the only dessert she made every Thanksgiving, and she was weirdly serious about it. No chocolate drizzle. No fancy crust. No substitutions. She had written the recipe on an index card with a grease stain in the corner and the words, "Do not rush the filling," underlined twice. Paige asked if she could try making it. The first attempt was too runny. The second one tasted right, but looked like it had lost a small argument with the oven. By the third try, she got close enough that I had to step into the garage for a minute because the smell hit me harder than I expected. After that, the pie became this quiet language in our house. If Paige made it, it meant she was apologizing, celebrating, or trying to say something she couldn't say out loud. I knew she never got it exactly like Mom did, but I loved that she tried. So when I found a bakery confirmation for that exact pie, using my mom's handwritten recipe, I thought Paige was planning something special. That was my first mistake. It started with a printer jam. Paige had been using our cheap home printer to print labels for some work project. I came home from a 12-hour shift around 7:30 in the morning, smelling like cardboard dust and vending machine coffee, and saw the printer blinking like it wanted to be put out of its misery. I dropped my keys in the bowl by the door, kicked off one boot, then heard it make that grinding noise it made whenever it swallowed paper sideways. "Seriously?" I muttered. Paige was already upstairs, or I thought she was. I opened the tray and pulled out a stuck page. It was a bakery confirmation from a place across town called Butter and Birch. The order was for 1 peanut butter chess pie, pick up Saturday at 4:30 p.m. Under special instructions, it said, use attached family recipe exactly. No substitutions. Right, you remembered on the box. I stood there in one boot, holding the page. Saturday was the night Paige had told me we were having dinner with her parents. She had been weirdly excited about it. She'd asked me twice if I could take the night off and please wear something nicer than my usual black hoodie, which she said made me look like I was about to help someone move. For about 10 seconds, I thought, oh my God, she's going to propose to me. Then I actually laughed, alone in the living room, because Paige would absolutely never propose. Not because she was traditional. She once told me she hated public emotional admin, which was her way of saying she didn't like dramatic speeches or people staring at her while she cried. Still, something was clearly happening. I folded the page, set it back beside the printer, and decided to play dumb. Over the next week, Paige acted like a person trying to hide a balloon behind her back. She smiled too much. She asked too many casual questions. "Do you still have that blue shirt from Maya's wedding?" she asked while we were unloading groceries. "The one you said made me look like a substitute teacher?" I said handsome substitute teacher. That's worse somehow. She bumped me with her hip and smiled. Just answer. Yeah, it's in the closet. A day later, while I was making eggs before work, she leaned against the counter and said, "Would your sister be mad if I texted her about something?" Maya's default setting is annoyed, so probably. Paige rolled her eyes. I'm serious. So am I. But she'd answer. Then came, do you think your dad would drive in for dinner if it was important? That one made my stomach flutter in a good, nervous way. My dad lived a little over an hour away. He didn't like driving into Columbus after dark, but he'd do it for me. I started imagining the dinner. Paige's parents. My dad. Maya sitting there trying not to look emotional. Paige saying something sweet and awkward. Me realizing she had planned a proposal, then pulling out the ring I already had, because I had been carrying my own secret. One morning after she left for work, I opened the toolbox in the garage just to check that the little velvet box was still there. It was tucked behind a roll of electrical tape and a pack of picture hangers. I popped it open, looked at the ring under the garage light, then closed it fast like it had caught me being stupid. But then the small things started feeling wrong. Paige changed her phone passcode. That didn't mean anything by itself. People change passcodes. I changed mine after Derek at work guessed it was my birthday and called me a security risk with legs. Then Paige started taking calls outside. At first, she said it was because she didn't want to wake me while I slept during the day. That made sense. Our walls were thin enough that I knew when our neighbor microwaved popcorn. But sometimes I wasn't sleeping. Sometimes I was standing in the kitchen, watching her step onto the patio in a coat, phone pressed to her ear, coming back in with red hands and a careful face. One afternoon, I woke up earlier than usual and heard her laughing downstairs. Not polite work call laughing. Real laughing. The kind she used to do when I accidentally said something dumb in the grocery store, like asking if arugula was angry lettuce. I walked into the kitchen. She stopped mid-laugh. I'll call you back, she said quickly, and turned around with this bright, fake expression that landed wrong on her face. Client? I asked. Yeah, she said. Too fast. Travis. He's impossible. I knew Travis. Not well, but enough. Travis Walker was her boss. He was 35, wore expensive sneakers with suits, and called everyone rock star, like it was part of his job description. I'd met him twice at company events. Both times he shook my hand too hard and talked over Paige while praising her. I wanted to ask why a client call was with her boss, but I didn't. I told myself I was getting paranoid because something big was coming. Hope can make you excuse a lot when you're afraid of ruining the good version in your head. The first real crack came from Derek at work. Derek was 31, married, and had the kind of practical calm that made him useful in a distribution center at 3 a.m. when a conveyor jammed and everyone else suddenly became a philosopher. We were in the break room during a slow hour, eating sandwiches from the vending machine that tasted mostly like cold regret. I mentioned the bakery order because I thought he might understand the weird pre-engagement panic. She ordered my mom's pie from Butter and Birch, I said. For Saturday. I think maybe something's happening. Derek paused with his sandwich halfway to his mouth. Butter and Birch. Yeah. My cousin works there. Okay. That place is booked out for custom stuff. Especially family recipes. How'd she get them to take it last minute? I shrugged. Maybe she ordered early. Maybe. He took a bite, chewed, then said, cute though? What's the name on the pickup? I opened my mouth, then stopped. The confirmation had Paige's phone number, but the name on the order hadn't been Paige. It was T. Walker. At the time, I'd barely registered it. I thought maybe it was a baker's note or some internal code. Derek set his sandwich down. Isn't her boss named Travis Walker? My stomach did something I still can't describe. It wasn't a drop. It was more like everything inside me leaned backward. I said, it's probably nothing. Derek gave me the look people give when they know you're lying to yourself, but aren't sure if you're ready to hear it. Yeah, he said quietly. Maybe. That morning, instead of going straight home to sleep, I drove to Butter and Birch. It was the kind of bakery that made you feel underdressed for buying a muffin. White tile, little chalkboard menu. Glass case full of pastries with names that sounded like someone had studied abroad. I stood near the register in my work jacket and tried to look like a normal person, not a man whose whole chest felt too tight. The girl at the counter smiled. What can I get started for you? Actually, I had a question about a custom order for Saturday. Peanut butter chess pie. Her smile stayed, but her eyes sharpened a little. Do you have the order number? I didn't. I gave Paige's number. Then I said, "It uses my family recipe. I just wanted to confirm something." She checked the tablet. "I'm sorry, I can't give details or make changes unless you're listed on the order." "I get that. I don't want to change it. I felt ridiculous. It's my mom's recipe." Her expression softened in a way that told me she knew exactly which order I meant. "I really am sorry," she said. "I can't change anything unless Travis or Paige calls." There it was. Travis or Paige. I thanked her because apparently manners don't leave you even when your insides do. Then I walked back to my truck and sat there for 15 minutes with both hands on the steering wheel. I almost confronted Paige that day. I rehearsed it the whole drive home. I pictured myself throwing the bakery Paige onto the kitchen island and watching her explain. I pictured anger, tears, maybe some reasonable misunderstanding that would make me feel bad for doubting her. But when I got home, the house was quiet. Paige was asleep on the couch with her laptop open on the coffee table, one hand tucked under her cheek. The TV was paused on a home renovation show. An Amazon package sat by the door. A half-empty mug of tea had gone cold beside her. I wasn't proud of what I did next. I looked. Not through her phone. Not through her messages. Her work email was open on the screen, and right there, at the top, was an email from an apartment complex with the subject line, "Lease confirmation, 2 occupants." The names were Paige L. and Travis Walker. Move-in date, the Monday after the dinner. For a second, I couldn't read anything else. The words blurred, then snapped back into place too clearly. I clicked the thread with my knuckle like that somehow made it less real. There were lease details, parking information, move-in instructions, and a message from the leasing office saying keys could be picked up after 10 a.m. My name wasn't anywhere. Then I saw another email thread from Paige to Travis. Subject line, Saturday plan. It wasn't long, but every line made me feel colder. Mom and Dad arrive at 6. Jack thinks it's dinner. Pie comes out after Elaine asks about the ring. I'll say I can't do this anymore if he makes it about himself. Need everyone to see I tried. I read that last sentence 3 times. Need everyone to see I tried. That was when I understood. The party wasn't for me. It was a stage. The pie wasn't a sweet memory. It was a prop. Paige was going to use my mom's recipe, my grief, and my almost proposal to make herself look like the woman who had carried our relationship while I failed her. She wasn't just leaving me. She was building a clean exit where everyone clapped for her courage. I took photos of the emails with my phone. My hands were steady in a way that scared me. Then I noticed one more thing. Travis had replied, "M knows nothing. Keep it quiet until after Sunday." M. I didn't know who M was, but I had a bad feeling. I went to the garage and stood between storage bins and paint cans, breathing like I'd just run upstairs. Then I searched Travis Walker online. It took maybe 30 seconds to find a public profile from a charity 5K Pages company sponsored. There was Travis in a navy quarter zip, smiling beside a woman with dark hair and sunglasses. The caption said, "Travis Walker and his wife, Marissa." Wife. Not ex-wife. Not separated wife. Wife. I wanted to wake Paige up and ask her how long she'd been practicing this version of me. I wanted to ask if she watched me drink coffee on the back steps while she planned where to put her couch with another man. I wanted to ask why my mom had to be part of it. Instead, I called Maya. Maya was my older sister, 29, and she answered on the second ring with, "Why are you calling me at 9 a.m.? Did you die?" No. There was a pause. That sounded worse than yes. I stepped outside into the cold little strip of patio behind the townhouse and told her everything. The printer jam. The bakery. Travis. The apartment. The Saturday plan. The wife. Maya didn't interrupt once. That scared me more than if she'd yelled. When I finished, all I could hear was faint traffic on her end. Then she said, "Jack, listen to me. Do not give her the satisfaction of making you the emotional one. I'm not trying to win a game." "No," she said. "You're trying to leave with your life intact. That means money, housing, family, and your sanity. In that order." I leaned against the railing. The neighbor's dog started barking at nothing, same as every morning, like the world had not shifted under my feet. Maya continued, "Is your direct deposit going into the shared account?" "No. Personal. But I transfer bill money into the shared." "Good. Change every password she could know. Email, bank, phone plan, streaming, whatever. Take the ring out of the house. Screenshot everything. And don't have some big conversation with her alone where she can spin it later." She invited Dad, I said. I know. She texted me too. My throat tightened. What did she say? Maya sighed. That Saturday might be emotional, and she needed family there because you two had been under stress. I thought she meant proposal nerves. Now I want to throw my phone into a lake. Don't. I said want to. Maya helped me think clearly. The townhouse lease was in both our names, but most utilities were in mine. Our savings were separate except for the household account. Paige had access to that account, so I transferred only my half of the upcoming rent into it, and nothing more. I changed passwords for everything. I turned on two-factor authentication. I checked autopay. I took the ring from the toolbox and drove it to Maya's apartment in a fast food bag because I didn't trust myself to keep looking at it. Maya opened the bag at her kitchen table. Classy, she said. It's temporary. So was Paige, apparently. I stared at her. She softened. Too soon. By several hours. Fair. The next step was the apartment complex. I called from my truck, parked outside a gas station, and didn't pretend to be anyone. I said I had received information involving my current partner and wanted to make sure my name and credit were nowhere near any lease, application, guarantor form, or utility transfer. The leasing agent couldn't tell me much, which was reasonable, but she did say, carefully, I can confirm you are not listed on the lease or application. That was a relief and a humiliation at the same time. Then I messaged Marissa. I kept it short. Hi, Marissa. You don't know me. My name is Jack. I'm Paige's boyfriend. I found emails that suggest Paige and your husband Travis are involved and planning to move into an apartment together. I'm not trying to cause chaos. I thought you deserved to know before Saturday. I can send proof if you want it. She responded 11 minutes later. Call me. Her voice was calm in a way that told me she had been living with suspicion for a while. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She asked direct questions. Dates. Names. Screenshots. Apartment complex. Bakery. When I mentioned the pie, she went quiet. Then she said, he told me Saturday was a company dinner. I rubbed my forehead. I'm sorry. Don't apologize for his sentence, she said. Just send me what you have. So I did. We didn't bond. This wasn't some strange revenge friendship. We were two people comparing notes from the same fire. Marissa told me Travis had never moved out. He had been sleeping in their house every night except the nights he claimed he had client travel. They had 2 kids. He had told her Paige was an employee going through a hard breakup and that he was mentoring her because she was talented but emotionally fragile. That word stuck in my head. Mentoring. The oldest lie in the office. By Friday night, I had enough proof that I didn't need to wonder anymore. Paige still moved through our townhouse like she was setting a table for a future she thought she controlled. She kissed my cheek before leaving for a brand event. She asked if I could pick up dry cleaning. She reminded me again about the blue shirt. Saturday matters to me, she said. I looked at her across the kitchen. The dishwasher hummed between us. I know, I said. She smiled, satisfied with that answer, and I realized she had no idea I meant something completely different. Saturday came, and I went to the dinner. People always ask why I didn't just leave. The honest answer is that Paige had invited my dad and Maya. She had invited her parents. She had invited 2 of our closest couple friends. She had built a room where I was supposed to be cornered, humiliated, and framed as the guy who couldn't love her correctly. I wanted the room to see the truth. The dinner was at a private room in a casual Italian restaurant Paige loved because the bread was free and the lighting made everyone look better. I arrived 10 minutes late on purpose, mostly because I needed to sit in my truck and breathe until my hands stopped feeling cold. I wore the blue shirt. When I walked in, Paige came straight to me and hugged me too hard. You made it, she whispered. Wouldn't miss it, I said. Her mother, Elaine, was already there in a cream sweater, sitting near Paige's father with red eyes like she'd been given an emotional preview. That hurt more than I expected. Paige had been working the room before I even arrived. My dad sat beside Maya, quiet and confused. Maya watched me with the expression of someone ready to tackle a server if necessary. Paige pulled out my chair. Sit by me. I sat. Dinner was painful in the most ordinary way. People passed bread. Someone complained about parking. Paige's dad asked my dad about road construction. One of our friends talked about how expensive weddings had gotten, then seemed to remember where he was and got very interested in his salad. Paige kept touching my arm. She leaned close when she laughed. She brushed a piece of linen off my sleeve. To everyone else, it probably looked sweet. To me, it looked like choreography. I watched her perform tenderness and wondered how many times I had mistaken performance for love. Halfway through dinner, Elaine looked at Paige and said, carefully, "Honey, did you want to say something before dessert?" There it was. Paige gave a tiny nervous laugh. Maybe dessert first. The server came in carrying a white bakery box from Butter and Birch. On top, in careful handwriting, were the words, "You remembered." My dad stared at it. Maya's jaw tightened. The server set it in the center of the table and left. Paige stood up with both hands clasped in front of her. "I wanted tonight to be special," she said. Her voice trembled just enough. "Because sometimes love is about remembering the little things, even when the other person forgets how much you've given." The room went silent. I could see it happening. She was setting the hook. If I proposed, she would reject me and become the brave woman who finally stopped pretending. If I didn't propose, she would point to the empty ring moment and let everyone assume I had failed some test only she knew she had given. Elaine put a hand over her mouth. Paige looked at me with wet eyes. "Jack, do you have anything you want to say?" I stood up. "Yeah," I said. "I do." I had planned a clean speech. Calm. Short. Adult. What came out was calm, but not short. "I was going to propose next month," I said. My dad's head turned toward me. Elaine blinked. Paige's face changed so fast I almost missed it. "Not tonight," I continued, because I didn't want to turn my mom into a party theme. I had the ring hidden in the garage, and when I found the bakery confirmation, I thought Paige ordering this pie meant she remembered something important to me. "Jack," Paige said quietly. I looked at the box, but Paige didn't order it for me. Travis Walker did. Her boss. The same Travis she's on a lease with for an apartment they were supposed to move into on Monday. Someone made a small sound. One of our friends whispered, "What?" Paige's hand gripped the back of her chair. "Jack, stop." I pulled out my phone, but I didn't wave it around. I just held it. I have the lease confirmation. I have the email where Paige wrote out the Saturday plan, including the line about the pie coming out after Elaine asked about the ring. Elaine's face went pale. I looked at her. "I'm sorry you got dragged into this. I think Paige told you a version where I was emotionally distant or pressuring her. I think she wanted you to believe she was trapped." Elaine's lips parted, but nothing came out. Paige said, "You don't understand what it felt like." "No," I said. "I don't understand using my mom's recipe as evidence." She flinched. I looked back around the table. She also told Travis's wife he was at a company dinner tonight. Paige went white. That was the moment the door opened. Marissa walked in. I had not asked her to come inside. I had only told her where the dinner was in case she wanted to verify Travis wasn't at home. But there she was, wearing jeans and a winter coat, holding her phone with one hand and the door with the other, looking like someone who had run out of patience. Behind her was Travis. Not confidently, not dramatically. He came in after her like a kid being brought to the principal's office. The room froze. Marissa looked at Paige. "He told me you were unstable and he was helping you professionally." Paige stared at Travis. "You said you were separated." Travis said nothing. That silence did more damage than any speech I could have given. Paige sat down hard in her chair. Elaine whispered, "Paige." That one word broke something in the room. Paige started crying, but not the kind of crying that comes from remorse. It was panic. She said I had invaded her privacy. She said I was twisting things. She said Travis had manipulated her. She said she had been lonely. She said I worked too much. She said she didn't know how to leave. Maya finally spoke. "You knew how to order a pie." Nobody had an answer for that. Travis tried to say he and Marissa had been having problems, but Marissa cut him off with one look. "Not here," she said. Then she turned to me. "Thank you for telling me." I nodded because I didn't trust my voice. Paige reached for my arm. "Jack, please. Can we talk outside?" I stepped back. "No, not alone." Her face crumpled, and for 1 second I saw the woman I had loved for almost 4 years. Then I saw the pie box between us, and whatever softness started in me shut itself down. I left the restaurant with my dad and Maya. My dad didn't say much until we were outside in the cold. He just put his hand on my shoulder and squeezed once. In the parking lot, Maya looked at me and said, "You're coming to my place tonight. I have work tomorrow. You have a sister with a couch and very strong opinions." For some reason, that was what almost made me cry. Paige called me 17 times that night. Then came the texts. "You humiliated me. You had no right to bring Marissa into it. You don't know the whole story. I was scared. You made everyone hate me. I replied once. You planned the audience. I only changed the script. Then I blocked her for the night. The next morning, I went back to the townhouse with Maya and a couple of empty storage bins. The place looked exactly the same, which felt offensive. Shoes by the door. Mail on the counter. A blue dish towel hanging from the oven handle. The printer, quiet and innocent, sitting on the little desk by the window. Paige was on the couch in the same sweater from dinner. Her hair was pulled back. Her eyes were swollen. She looked smaller, but I had learned by then that feeling sorry for someone is not the same as trusting them. I never meant for it to happen like that, she said. I set a storage bin on the floor. I know. You meant for it to happen to me. She covered her face. Maya stayed near the doorway, arms folded, not saying a word. Paige tried to explain. She said the affair had been going on for 7 months. She said Travis made her feel seen. She said she thought I didn't really want her because I was always tired. She said she felt like we were already halfway over and she didn't know how to say it. Then she admitted she had told people I was emotionally checked out because she needed them to understand when she left. That was the part one couldn't forgive. Not the cheating. Not fully. People do selfish, messy things when they're unhappy. It doesn't excuse it, but I could at least understand the shape of it. What I couldn't get past was the way she built a fake version of me and handed it to everyone we loved so she could walk away clean. You could have ended it, I said. I know. You could have said you were unhappy. I tried. No, I said. You narrated. That's different. She looked down. I packed the things I needed first. Work clothes, documents, my mom's recipe card from the kitchen drawer, the good coffee mug, chargers, boots, and a framed photo of my dad, Maya, and me from some cookout where everyone was squinting into the sun. Paige followed me from room to room until Maya finally said, sit down or help. Hovering is not a third option. Paige sat. I told her the relationship was over and that from then on, we would communicate only about the lease and bills by text or email. She begged me not to tell the landlord anything yet because she didn't know where she was going to live. I said, I'm not covering for you anymore. The practical consequences came fast, but they weren't dramatic in the way people online like to imagine. Travis was put on leave after Marissa contacted his company with screenshots showing the relationship with a direct report and the apartment lease. Paige resigned before HR finished whatever process they started. The apartment lease fell apart because Travis backed out almost immediately, which seemed to be his signature move in every part of his life. Paige moved in with her parents for a while. I heard that from Elaine, not Paige. 2 weeks after the dinner, Elaine texted me. Jack, I'm sorry I believed things without asking you. You deserved better. I stared at the message for a long time. Eventually, I wrote back, thank you. I hope she gets help. And I meant it. Not because I was noble. Because by then, I was too tired to hate her full time. The ring sat in Maya's junk drawer for 3 weeks before I returned it. The guy at the jewelry store asked if there was anything wrong with it. I almost laughed. No, I said. Wrong person. I moved into a smaller apartment closer to work. It wasn't impressive. The bedroom barely fit my bed, and the kitchen drawers stuck if you pulled them too fast. The balcony looked over a strip mall with a nail salon, a sandwich shop, and a tax office that had a dancing inflatable tube guy outside, even when it wasn't tax season. But the first morning I woke up there, nobody was lying beside me. Nobody was rewriting me in another room. Nobody was turning my grief into decoration. I made coffee, sat on the balcony in a hoodie, and watched traffic crawl past like everyone had somewhere important to be. For months, I kept thinking I should have noticed sooner. The calls outside, the changed passcode, the way Paige started narrating our relationship to other people before talking to me, the little pauses before she answered simple questions. But trust doesn't make you stupid. It makes you available to be hurt by someone who knows exactly where the doors are. I don't regret loving Paige. I regret how long I confused being patient with being loyal to myself. A few weeks after I moved, Maya came over with takeout and a grocery bag. She set both on my counter like she owned the place, which, emotionally, she kind of did. Inside the bag were peanut butter, corn syrup, eggs, sugar, and a frozen pie crust because neither of us had my mom's patience. I looked at the ingredients. Absolutely not. We're making the pie, Maya said. It's going to be terrible. Probably. She pulled open a drawer and frowned when it stuck. but at least nobody's using it as evidence. We made it anyway. We argued over whether the filling looked right. We called my dad to ask if Mom used light or dark corn syrup, and he said, whichever was on sale, which somehow made me miss her and laugh at the same time. We burned the edges. The filling cracked. It looked nothing like my mom's. Maya took one bite and said, "Okay, this is structurally questionable." I took another bite. "Yeah," I said, "but it's ours." And for the first time in a long time, that was enough. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.